June 6, 1944, a date that would be etched into the annals of history forever. The world held its breath as the dawn of this fateful day approached. The Allied forces were about to embark on an operation of unprecedented scale and significance. This was the day that would mark the beginning of the end of the tyranny that had gripped Europe for far too long. Dawn breaks over the English Channel. The first light of day reveals a scene of immense preparation and anticipation. The calm waters belie the storm that is about to be unleashed. The air is filled with a sense of foreboding, as if nature itself is aware of the monumental events that are about to unfold. A vast armada stretches to the horizon. Ships of all shapes and sizes, from mighty battleships to humble landing crafts, form a seemingly endless line. This is the largest amphibious invasion force ever assembled, a testament to the industrial might and logistical prowess of the Allied nations. Thousands of ships, a testament to human industry and resolve, bear witness to a moment that will decide the fate of the world. Each vessel carries men who have trained for this day, who have steeled themselves for the trials ahead. They know that the success of this operation is crucial, that the hopes of millions rest on their shoulders. This is no mere military operation. This is a crusade, a fight for freedom against the tyranny that has gripped Europe for too long. The commanders know the stakes, and they have planned meticulously for every eventuality. They have studied the terrain, the enemy defenses, and the weather conditions. They have left nothing to chance. This is a crusade, a fight for freedom against the tyranny that has gripped Europe for too long. The soldiers are given final words of encouragement, speeches that remind them of the righteousness of their cause. They are told that they are the vanguard of liberty, the spearhead of a force that will liberate the oppressed and restore peace to a war-torn continent. The air is thick with tension. Faces are set in grim determination, eyes scanning the horizon for the first sight of land. Each man is lost in his own thoughts, contemplating the enormity of the task ahead. They know that many of them will not see the end of this day, but they are resolved to do their duty. The roar of aircraft engines drowns out the pounding hearts of the men aboard the landing craft. Above them, the skies are filled with planes, bombers, and fighters, all part of the intricate ballet of war. The air support is crucial, softening up the enemy defenses and providing cover for the troops below. The fate of the free world rests on their shoulders. These men are the tip of the spear, the first wave of an assault that will determine the course of the war. They are acutely aware of the responsibility they bear, and they are prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice if necessary. They are young, many just boys, thrust into a maelstrom of violence unimaginable just a few short years ago. They have left behind families, friends, and the comforts of home to fight in a foreign land. Their youth is a stark contrast to the grim reality of the battlefield they are about to enter. The order rings out. Hit the beach! The moment of truth has arrived. The ramps drop, and the men surge forward into the jaws of death. They are met with a hail of bullets, a wall of fire from the German defenses that line the shore. The ramp drops. A wall of fire erupts from the German defenses. The men are exposed, vulnerable, but they press on. They know that hesitation means death, that they must keep moving, keep pushing forward. Men scramble through the surf, weighed down by their equipment, fear a tangible presence. This is Omaha Beach, this is chaos, this is D-Day. The scene is one of utter pandemonium, with men falling all around, the air filled with the screams of the wounded and the roar of gunfire. The beach is a scene of unimaginable carnage. Bodies lie strewn across the sand, the water tinged red with blood. The cost of this operation is painfully clear, but the men press on, driven by a sense of duty, and the knowledge that they are fighting for a just cause. The sand is stained crimson with the blood of fallen comrades. Each step forward is a tribute to their sacrifice, a testament to their bravery. The men know that they must honor the fallen by continuing the fight, by ensuring that their deaths are not in vain. The air is thick with the stench of cordite and death. The sounds of battle are deafening, a cacophony of explosions, gunfire, and the cries of the wounded. But amidst the chaos, there is a sense of purpose, a determination to see the mission through. But amidst the chaos there is courage. Acts of heroism abound as men risk their lives to save their comrades, to take out enemy positions, to push forward against overwhelming odds. These are the moments that define them, that will be remembered long after the battle is over. Unwavering courage in the face of overwhelming odds. The men advance, step by step, yard by yard, driven by a fierce determination to succeed. They know that failure is not an option, that the fate of the free world depends on their success. These men, these heroes, will not falter. They will not yield. They will fight. They will win. Their courage, their sacrifice will pave the way for the liberation of Europe, for the restoration of peace and freedom. This is their legacy, a legacy of bravery and determination that will be remembered for generations to come. The beaches were just the beginning. The initial landings on the Normandy beaches marked a significant and historic moment in the Allied invasion of Europe. The soldiers who stormed the beaches faced a hail of bullets, artillery shells, and the daunting task of overcoming well-fortified German defenses. Yet, despite the immense challenges, they managed to secure a foothold on the continent. This was a monumental achievement, but it was only the first step in a much larger and more grueling campaign. The Allied forces had punched a hole in Hitler's Atlantic Wall, but the real battle for Normandy was about to begin. The soldiers knew that the fight ahead would be even more intense and demanding. The Atlantic Wall, with its bunkers, mines, and barbed wire, was a formidable barrier, but it was just the outer layer of the German defenses. Beyond the beaches lay the true test of their resolve and endurance. Inland lay the bocage, a patchwork of fields enclosed by thick, ancient hedgerows. These hedgerows, some of which had been in place for centuries, created a labyrinthine landscape that was both beautiful and treacherous. The bocage was a unique terrain feature of the Normandy countryside, characterized by its dense vegetation and narrow, winding lanes. For the advancing Allied forces, it presented a series of natural obstacles that would prove to be as challenging as any man-made fortification. These natural fortifications, some taller than a man, became a killing ground. The thick interwoven branches and dense undergrowth provided excellent cover and concealment for the defending German forces. They could set up ambushes, sniper positions, and machine gun nests with relative ease, making every advance a perilous endeavor for the Allied troops. The bocage turned into a deadly maze where danger lurked behind every corner. The Germans were dug in deep, their machine guns and mortars hidden amongst the dense foliage. They had spent months, if not years, preparing their defensive positions, and they knew the terrain intimately. The bocage allowed them to mount a highly effective defense, using the natural cover to their advantage. The Allied soldiers found themselves facing an enemy that was well prepared, well armed, and determined to hold their ground at all costs. For the Allies, the bocage was a nightmare. The dense vegetation and narrow lanes made it difficult to maneuver, and the constant threat of ambushes kept the soldiers on edge. Tanks, which had been so effective on the open beaches, found themselves bogged down and unable to navigate the tight, hedged-in paths. The bocage turned every movement into a slow, grinding struggle, testing the limits of the soldiers' endurance and resolve. Tanks were bogged down, their guns useless against the concealed enemy. The thick hedgerows and narrow lanes made it nearly impossible for the tanks to provide effective support to the infantry. The German defenders, hidden in their well-camouflaged positions, could pick off the advancing soldiers with relative impunity. The bocage turned into a deadly trap, where every step forward came at a high cost. Infantrymen fought from hedgerow to hedgerow, often engaging in hand-to-hand combat. The close-quarters nature of the fighting meant that the soldiers had to rely on their wits, courage, and training to survive. Every hedgerow became a potential battleground where the enemy could be hiding just a few feet away. The fighting was brutal and personal, with soldiers often coming face to face with their adversaries in desperate struggles for survival. It was like fighting in a maze, recalls Private John Miller, 101st Airborne. The dense, tangled vegetation and narrow lanes created a disorienting and claustrophobic environment. Soldiers had to navigate through a seemingly endless series of hedgerows, never knowing what lay beyond the next one. The bocage tested their nerves and their ability to adapt to an ever-changing and unpredictable battlefield. You never knew where the enemy was, or when they might pop up. The constant threat of ambushes and surprise attacks kept the soldiers on edge, making it difficult to rest or relax. Every rustle in the bushes, every shadow in the trees could be a sign of an impending attack. The bocage turned into a psychological as well as a physical battleground, where the soldiers had to remain vigilant at all times. Every hedgerow could be your last. The soldiers knew that each step forward could bring them face to face with the enemy and that the next hedgerow could be their final resting place. The bocage turned into a deadly game of cat and mouse where the stakes were life and death. The soldiers had to summon all their courage and determination to keep moving forward, despite the constant danger. The bocage became a symbol of the brutal, attritional nature of the Normandy campaign. The fighting was slow, grinding, and relentless, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The bocage turned into a killing field where progress was measured in yards rather than miles. The soldiers had to endure constant hardship and danger, knowing that every step forward brought them closer to victory, but also closer to death. Progress was agonizingly slow, measured in yards rather than miles. The dense terrain and determined German resistance made every advance a hard-fought battle. The soldiers had to inch their way forward, often at great cost, knowing that each small gain was a step closer to their ultimate goal. The bocage turned into a test of endurance and determination, where the soldiers had to dig deep to find the strength to keep going. Casualties mounted on both sides. The brutal nature of the fighting took a heavy toll on the soldiers, with many losing their lives or suffering severe injuries. The medics worked tirelessly to save the wounded, often under fire, while the soldiers mourned their fallen comrades. The bocage turned into a place of both heroism and tragedy, where the soldiers had to confront the harsh realities of war. The bocage had become a crucible, testing the mettle of both soldier and machine. The soldiers had to rely on their training, their comrades, and their own inner strength to overcome the challenges they faced. The tanks, too, had to prove their worth in the difficult terrain, with their crews working tirelessly to keep them operational. The bocage turned into a proving ground, where the true character of the soldiers and their machines was revealed. Behind enemy lines another battle raged. It was a battle fought in the shadows, under the cover of darkness, where every sound could mean life or death. The paratroopers, brave and resolute, were the unsung heroes of this nocturnal warfare. In the pre-dawn hours of D-Day, thousands of paratroopers descended upon the Norman countryside. These men, trained to jump from aircraft into the unknown, were tasked with a mission of immense importance. As they leaped from their planes, the cold night air rushed past them, and the ground below seemed like a distant, dark abyss. Their mission to secure key bridges and roads, disrupt German communications, and sow chaos behind the beaches. These objectives were critical to the success of the larger invasion force that would storm the beaches at dawn. The paratroopers knew that their actions could mean the difference between victory and defeat. The night sky was filled with the roar of aircraft and the flicker of anti-aircraft fire. The paratroopers' planes weaved through a deadly gauntlet, with flak bursting all around them. The danger was palpable, but the men remained focused on their mission, their hearts pounding with adrenaline and fear. Men landed in fields, towns, and even on top of enemy positions. The landings were chaotic, with many paratroopers scattered far from their intended drop zones. Some found themselves alone, surrounded by enemy forces, while others landed in the midst of their comrades, ready to fight. Scattered and disoriented, they fought with courage and determination against a numerically superior enemy. Despite the confusion and the overwhelming odds, the paratroopers pressed on. They used their training and their wits to overcome the challenges they faced, knowing that failure was not an option. We were completely outnumbered, but we never gave up hope. Remembers Sergeant James Red Dolan. 82nd Airborne. His words echo the sentiment of all the paratroopers who fought that night. They were driven by a sense of duty and a belief in their cause, which gave them the strength to keep fighting. We knew our mission was vital to the success of the invasion. The paratroopers understood that their actions were a crucial part of the larger strategy. They were the tip of the spear, paving the way for the main force that would follow. Their success or failure would have a direct impact on the outcome of the invasion. The paratroopers' sacrifice bought valuable time for the troops landing on the beaches. By engaging the enemy and creating confusion, they allowed the beach landings to proceed with less resistance. Their actions saved countless lives and helped to ensure the success of the invasion. They disrupted German defenses and paved the way for the Allied advance inland. The paratroopers' efforts were instrumental in weakening the enemy's ability to respond to the invasion. Their bravery and determination helped to turn the tide of the war in favor of the Allies. Their courage under fire would become legendary, their stories etched in the annals of military history. The paratroopers of D-Day are remembered as heroes who faced incredible odds and emerged victorious. Their legacy lives on, inspiring future generations to honor their sacrifice and strive for the same level of bravery and dedication. The Allied invasion relied on more than just military might. Across occupied France, a silent army of resistance fighters waged their own war against the Nazis. They were ordinary citizens, farmers, shopkeepers, teachers, united by their hatred of the occupiers. The resistance provided vital intelligence to the Allies, pinpointing German positions and sabotaging enemy infrastructure. They cut communication lines, blew up bridges, and ambushed German patrols. "We were fighting for our country, for our freedom," says Marie Dubois, a former resistance fighter. "We knew the risks, but we also knew that we had to do everything we could to help liberate France." The resistance's contribution to the liberation of France was immeasurable. They were the eyes and ears of the Allied armies, their courage and sacrifice instrumental in the eventual victory. Their story is a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human will to resist oppression.